Good morning, students. How are you? Hope all are fine. So it is very too late. So starting 7th standard, it became very late. So 1 month you are delayed in getting your education. Yeah. So it's okay. But now we are moved into the new class, so 7th standard. So it entirely different from your previous classes. Okay, so in 7th standard history you are going to learn about the medieval India. So in 6th standard you learn about the prehistoric human society and culture, then later about ancient India. Yeah. So in this class 7th standard you are going to learn about the medieval India. So history, so the very first lesson in history was the sources of medieval India. So before entering to the class, so just finish your prayer. Yeah, very good. நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர், நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர், நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர், நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். Okay students, take your social science book. So come to page number 102. We will start with the very first lesson in history, sources of medieval India. So in the first lesson, so what are you going to learn? So first is the learning objectives. Yeah, so to acquaint ourselves with, so to acquaint means so to become familiar. So what are you going to learn from this lesson? So first, sources of the study of medieval India. So first source, so what do you mean by sources of the study? Yeah, sources means so something that gave information to us. Yeah, so something that may be a written one or a physical structure. Yeah, so anything so that gives information about something means so that is called as source. Yeah, so what type of source that gave information about medieval India? You are going to learn about that. Yeah, then so temple, mosque, tomb, palaces, fort as important sources. So apart from written evidences, so there are some buildings, so there are some physical structures, there are some monuments, so which give information to us. Okay, so you learn about that and all. Then literary and inscriptional text. Yes, so some text, some written works. So what are the written works that give us information? Then finally about account of Arab and Turkish travelers. Yeah, so Arab and Turkey. So from these countries, so there are many travelers, they visited India during medieval century, so medieval period. Yeah, so their travel accounts also gave us some information about the medieval India. So you are going to learn about that and all detailedly. So let us move into the lesson. Introduction. So the period from AD 700 to 1200 and from AD 1200 to 1700 are classified as early medieval and later medieval period. Yes, in Indian history, so the medieval period was classified into two, early medieval period and later medieval period. So early medieval period covers the year from 700 to 1200 AD. At the same time, the later medieval period so covers the year from 1200 to 1700. Yeah, so there are numerous and variety of sources so which gave us a lot of information. Yeah, so which helped the historians. Yeah, so to show their interest in studying the medieval India. So there are lot of resources, so there are lot of sources so which helped the historians to show their interest so in the study of medieval India. So added to the information so that can be gleaned from inscriptions. So apart from the information, so they got through the inscription and monuments and coins. So there are also accounts they left by Arab, Persian and Turkish chroniclers. So chroniclers means so those who gave information in a chronological order. So those who gave information through their writings in the chronological order. Yeah. So the numerous sources so that helped the historians to show their interest, to have their interest in the study of medieval India. At the same time, so to the informations, so which can be got, so which are acquired from the inscriptions, monuments and coins, so which are left by the Arab and Persian and Turkish chronicles. So there are lot of sources, so which give us information. Yeah. So but these accounts are rich in detail and have given first-hand information on the life of kings, though they provide very little information on the life of common people. So from the above informations, so we gather the news only about the kings only. So mostly they gave importance to the king only. So the life of a common people was not that much mentioned. Yeah. So the opinions of the courtiers. So courtiers means those who are in the king's court, and the chroniclers. So chroniclers, already I told. So the travelers, yeah, so they were often one-sided, yeah, so they written hyperbolic language, so they written their own language, so sometimes it was very difficult to understand, so because it was written nearly 1,000 years before, yeah, so they mostly told about the achievement of king only, yeah, so that's why they say it was one-sided, yeah, so now, but from these sources we can analyze the type of government, so the type of situation in that exists in the medieval India. So sources. So sources are the supporting materials, documents or record in the form of evidence that help to reconstruct the past. So sources are the nothing but the supporting material. So that support us, and documents or record in the form of evidence that help to reconstruct the past. That is, that helps to arrange the incidents in an order that happened in the past. Okay, so the sources are classified into two types. One is primary sources and another one is secondary sources. So primary sources include inscriptions, monuments and coins and the information available. So secondary sources includes the literary works, chronicles, travelogues, biographies and autobiographies. Because the primary sources include inscriptions, that is write that is writings engraved on solid surfaces. Okay, so monument means so some buildings, okay, and coins, so these are considered as the primary sources, okay, so of information. Then secondary sources, literary works, so mostly written works, so literary works, chronicles, travelogue, biographies and autobiographies. So sources are thus classified. In today's class we see about the primary sources. So sources of medieval period. So for the study of medieval period, historians use a variety of sources such as inscriptions, coins, historical buildings and literary works. Okay, so inscriptions, coins, historical buildings, then literature works. So maybe religious or not religious. Then apart from that, so there are lot of things to know about the past history. So inscriptions. So inscriptions are writings engraved on solid surfaces. So inscriptions are writings that were engraved, so that were written on solid surfaces such as rock, stones, temple walls and metals. So the king's royal decrees. So decrees means so official order from the king. Okay, so the official order of the king was called as royal decrees. Okay, so royal decrees, dedications, that is what are all dedicated, what are all given by the king to others. Then donations, then monuments raised in commemoration of victories in the wars. So commemoration means see in remembrance of war, in remembrance of victory in the war. So the kings, if they won in the battle, means in remember of their victory, so they build some buildings, so they built some monuments or towers. Okay, so those built in memory of deceased warriors. So apart from that, so they also built some monuments in memory of their warriors who were died in the battle. So in the memory of their warriors who were died in the battle. So it contains rich information about the concerned era. So it contains information about their period. Yeah. Then apart from that, so the copper plate grants, so which were treated as legal document, have a significant source value. So apart from that, so they gave some information, so through their copper plate, so the plate like substance, coin like substances, so which is made of copper. So they made legal document. Okay, so it also have some important value. Then so the Islamic Persian activities and the high cost of copper plates made palm leaf and paper cheaper alternatives from 13th century onwards. Yeah, so but before 13th century the copper plates were used, but after the discovery of paper, so it became, it replaced copper plates. Okay, so the Islamic Persian practices and the relatively high cost of copper plates made palm leaf and paper cheaper alternatives from 13th century onwards. So from 13th century onwards, so they began to use palm leaf and paper. Yeah, so but before that and all, they use copper plate so for legal documents. Okay. So several copper plate grants issued during the later Chola period. Yeah, so from 10th century to 13th century, so the Cholas issued a lot of copper plate. Okay, wow. So it record gift to individual priests or teachers who were Hindus, Buddhist or Jaina, or to persons of eminence or to the persons of intelligent. So the Chola kings so issued several copper plates. So both the giver and the receiver were elaborately described. So during the Chola period from 10th century to 13th century, they gave lot of gift to individual priests or teachers or persons who were eminent. So the persons who were intelligent. Okay, so they issued a lot of gift. So that were mentioned in the copper plates. So in the copper plate, both the giver and the receiver were described detailedly. But in the stone inscriptions, there is some difference. That is, what's the difference means? Only the giver was mentioned detailedly. Okay, so that is the donor was mentioned detailedly, and the receiver, so that is the person who received the prize or person who received the gift was not recorded. Okay, so that is the major focus is given to the donors only. So in stone inscriptions, the major information, so the major focus is given to the donors. But if you take a copper plate inscriptions, it gave information about the both the donor and the receiver. Okay, so the Tiruvalangadu plates of Rajendra Chola I and the anvil plates of Sundara Chola were some important examples. Okay, so Tiruvalangadu plates of Rajendra Chola I and the anvil plates of Sundara Chola were some of the stone inscriptions. Okay, so which gave information about the Chola rulers. So apart from some copper plates, so you can see in this picture, so these are the copper plates. Okay, so in which the written evidence are seen, so the writings are engraved. Okay, so apart from this, so there are some stones inscriptions, especially the Uttarameru inscription. So you can see in this right side of this picture, Uttarameru stone inscription. So it provide a detail of the way in which the village administration was conducted. So Uttarameru inscription. So Uttarameru was in Kanchipuram district. It provide detailed information about the village administration. Then various type of land was gifted by the Chola kings, so which are known from the inscription and copper plates. So they are Vellanvagai, so which was the land given for non-Brahmanas and proprietors. So non-Brahmana peasant properties. Then Brahmadaya, so which was the land gifted to the Brahmanas. Yeah, so Brahmadaya, the land gifted to the Brahmanas. Then Shalabhaga, so land for the maintenance of school. So in order to maintain the school, so they gave the land. So they gave the land called as Shalabhoga. Then Devadana, so the land gifted to temples were called as Devadana. Then apart from that, so they also donate the land to Jaina institutions. So for the Jainist people, for the Jainism, they also gave some land. So those land were called as Pallichandam. Okay, wow. Then monuments. So monuments. So the temple, palaces, mosque, tomb, fort, manors and minarets. So are collectively called by the name monuments. Okay, so temples, palaces, mosques, tomb, fort, manors and minarets. So minarets and minarets are so like the towers that were seen in the mosque. Okay, so minarets were the a tall tower, so typically which is a part of a mosque. Okay, so that is belongs to mosque. Okay, so these are considered as the monuments. And so the Sultan of Delhi, so Delhi Sultans, so they were Muslim rulers. So they introduced a new type of architecture, so the new type of building style. Okay, so the monuments they built had arches, domes, and minarets. Yeah, so they built the monuments so which have arch, yes, and also have domes. Okay, so domes means in the interior part of their building you can see an arch shaped, so their interior part is not flat, so just it look like a crescent, it should look like a arch shaped, so that was called as domes, so it was their future, it was their building style. So just to recall Taj Mahal, okay, so in the interior part you can see a dome like structure, so just like a curve, okay. So the inscriptions in these monuments contain rich information, so which can be used to construct history. So the inscriptions in these buildings, so in these monuments, so contains a lot of information, so which help us to construct the history. So the medieval Gajaroha monuments, so which is in Madhya Pradesh, and temples in Konark, so Sun Temple, it is in Odisha, and apart from Dilwara, so Mount Abu, it is located in Mount Abu, Rajasthan. So they provide us a lot of information about the North India. So Gajaroho, Konark, and Dilwara, so they gave a lot of information related with religious, so related with religious centered cultural evolution in North India. So these temples, so these places, these sites, these monuments gave us information about the cultural practices, so religious cultural practices that existed in North India during the medieval age. Okay, then what type of monument that gave information about the South India? So who gave information? So what gave information about the medieval century rulers in South India? Yeah, the temples in Tanjavur, so the Bhagiratheswara temple, then Gangaikonda Cholapuram and Dharasuram. So it symbolizes the magnificent structure the later Cholas built in Tamil Nadu. Yeah, so the Cholas means what will come into your mind? A famous temple in Tanjavur. Yeah, so the big temple in Tanjavur. Yeah, so the Tanjai Bragadiswarar temple, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, and Dharasuram. So it shows their magnificent structure. So it shows the pride of later Cholas building architecture. Yeah, so the architecture skill of Cholas, later Cholas in Tamil Nadu. Okay, wow. Then Vittala and Virupaksha temple. So the first picture was the Vittala temple, and the next second picture was Virupaksha temple. Yeah. So it was at Hampi. So speaks about the contribution of Vijayanagar rulers in 15th century. So these monuments so speaks about the pride of Vijayanagara Empire, so which was more powerful in 15th century. Okay, then just ask some questions. So from which we taught till now. Yeah. So how are the sources classified? Yeah, primary and secondary. So what are primary sources? Yeah, very good. Inscriptions, monument, and coins. So what are included in the secondary sources? Yeah, literary works, chronicles, travel, biographies. Yeah. Then so which inscriptions provide a detailed information about village administration? Yeah, Uttiramerur. So where it is located? In Kanjipuram district. Yeah. So how was the land gifted to Brahmins called as? Brahmadaya. Very good. So how was the land gifted to temple were called as? Yeah, Devadana. Yeah. So what are the monuments? Yeah, temples, palaces, mosque, tomb, fort, etc. are called as monuments. Very good. So now we will move to the monuments. Okay, so now we will continue with the monuments topic. The above three slides, that is the Khajuraho, Konark, then temples in Tanjavur, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, Dharasuram, Virupaksha temple. So they were mentioned about our Hindu rulers. Okay, but the medieval century was occupied mostly by the Muslim rulers. Okay, so the Muslim invention began in 7th, 8th century. So 7th to 8th century, and they only ruled Indian subcontinent in major part of their period. Okay, so they also raised, so they also built some monuments. Okay, so important of them were Kuwatul Islam Masjid, Mot Ki Masjid, Zamma Masjid, and Fatehpur Sikri, so which are in and around Delhi. Yeah, so and Charminar in Hyderabad. So these are the important mosques belonging to the medieval period. So you can see in this picture Jamma Masjid. Yeah, so one of the famous and largest mosque in world, in Asia. Yeah, and Fatehpur Sikri. So these two monuments. So apart from there are a lot of monuments. So they gave us lot of information about medieval India. The above three slides, that is the Khajuraho, Konark, then temples in Tanjavur, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, Dharasuram, Virupaksha temple. So they were mentioned about our Hindu rulers. Okay, but the medieval century was occupied mostly by the Muslim rulers. Okay, so the Muslim invention began in 7th, 8th century. So 7th to 8th century, and they only ruled Indian subcontinent in major part of their period. Okay, so they also raised, so they also built some monuments. Okay, so important of them were Kuwatul Islam Masjid, Mot Ki Masjid, Zamma Masjid, and Fatehpur Sikri, so which are in and around Delhi. Okay, so and Charminar in Hyderabad. So these are the important mosques belonging to the medieval period. So you can see in this picture Jamma Masjid. Yeah, so one of the famous and largest mosque in world, in Asia. Yeah, and Fatehpur Sikri. So these two monuments. So apart from there are a lot of monuments. So they gave us lot of information about medieval India. Apart from that, there are forts like Agra Fort, Chittur Fort, Gwalior Fort, and Delhi Red Fort. So they also gave a lot of information. So Agra Fort and Red Fort. So do you know the importance of Red Fort? You can see in this picture also. Our national flag was raised. Yeah. So you know India got independence on very good. So 15th August 1947. Oh, yeah. So our first Prime Minister. So who was our first Prime Minister? Jawaharlal Nehru. Very good. Yeah. So he raised the Indian national flag. So after the declaration of independence, so he raised the Indian national flag first time in Red Fort only. Yeah. So now also every year, so during Independence Day, so the Prime Minister of our country so hoisted the national flag in Red Fort and gave speech to Indians. Okay, so the Red Fort, so it was built by the Mughal ruler Shah Jahan. Okay, so he built Red Fort, Taj Mahal, and other important buildings. Okay, so these fort, Agra and Red Fort, gave a lot of information about the medieval century rulers. So during the Islam rule, during the Muslim rule, there are some Rajput rulers so who were strong in their dynasty. So in their area, okay, so with the support of their Rajput dynasty people, so they also built some palaces in Jaipur, Jaisalmer, and Jodhpur. So it signifies, it shows the greatness of Rajput dynasty that enjoyed enormous power in those places. Okay, so Rajput dynasty, so mostly located around Rajasthan state. Okay, so Jaipur, Jaisalmer, and Jodhpur so were seen in the Rajasthan state. Okay, so they built some palaces. Okay, so you can see the Jodhpur palace and the Jaipur palace. Okay, so you can see the structure of the monument. So it was built by the Rajput dynasty. Okay, so they also gave some information. Okay, so like the South Indian temples. Okay, so can you remember the South Indian temples? What are they? So which symbolize the magnificent structure of the later Cholas. Yeah, Tanji Birgadiswarar temple, then Gaggaingonda Cholapuram, and Dharasuram. Okay, so they gave a lot of information about the later Cholas. No, so like that. So these palaces. So the palaces in Jodhpur and Jaipur. Yeah, so it shows the greatness of the Rajput dynasty. Then Qutub Minar and Alai Darwaza, the tombs of Iltutmish and Balban and all the Mughal rulers are the other prominent structures recognized as a valuable source of information. Okay. So Qutub Minar, okay, so it was in Delhi. So the first picture it was a Qutub Minar, it's a tower-like structure. Then the tombs of Iltutmish. So what do I mean by tomb? So it was a grave, a large grave, especially one built of store above or below the ground. Yes, it is a grave. So built in remembrance of a king, in remembrance of a ruler. Yeah, so Iltutmish and Balban were the rulers who ruled India in 11th century, 12th century. So they ruled India. Okay, and all the Mughal rulers. So Mughal dynasty, you will learn in your later classes. So their buildings. So initially we saw no. So some of the buildings, some of the fort, that is Delhi Fort, Agra Fort, etc. And apart from that, some monuments. So Masjid, Zama Masjid, Fatehpur Sikri, no. So they were built by the Mughal rulers. So their monuments, so their structures, their prominent structures was recognized as a valuable source of information. Then the cities like Firozabad, Tughlakabad, so they were no more. Yeah, so but the remaining only that. So now you can see in this picture, so Firozabad, so just the remaining of some buildings, some monuments were existed. So this also gave a lot of information about the medieval century India. Then Qutub Minar and Alai Darwaza, the tombs of Iltutmish and Balban and all the Mughal rulers are the other prominent structures recognized as a valuable source of information. Okay. So Qutub Minar, okay, so it was in Delhi. So the first picture it was a Qutub Minar, it's a tower-like structure. Then the tombs of Iltutmish. So what do I mean by tomb? So it was a grave, a large grave, especially one built of store above or below the ground. Yes, it is a grave. So built in remembrance of a king, in remembrance of a ruler. Yeah, so Iltutmish and Balban were the rulers who ruled India in 11th century, 12th century. So they ruled India. Okay, and all the Mughal rulers. So Mughal dynasty, you will learn in your later classes. So their buildings. So initially we saw no. So some of the buildings, some of the fort, that is Delhi Fort, Agra Fort, etc. And apart from that, some monuments. So Masjid, Zama Masjid, Fatehpur Sikri, no. So they were built by the Mughal rulers. So their monuments, so their structures, their prominent structures was recognized as a valuable source of information. Then the cities like Firozabad, Tughlakabad, so they were no more. Yeah, so but the remaining only that. So now you can see in this picture, so Firozabad, so just the remaining of some buildings, some monuments were existed. So this also gave a lot of information about the medieval century India. So the portrait and the legend. So the portrait means so pictures, images in drawing or paintings. And the legend, yes, on the coins, so convey the name of the kings with their titles, events, places, dates, dynasties, and royal emblems. Yeah. So the coins, so with their writings, with their symbols, yes, with their portrait, with their image, so shows the title of the king, the events, the places, dates, dynasty, and royal emblems. Yeah. So the composition of metals in the coins give us information on the economic condition of the empire. Yeah. So the metals, so the metal used in making the coins, so gave us information about the economic condition. So in what type of material used for producing the coins, so gave us the detailed information about the economic condition. Yeah. So apart from that, it mentioned the king's achievement like military conquest, territorial expansion, and trade link and religious faith. So it also be seen in the coins. So the coins not only shows the economic condition of the empire, it also sometimes shows the king's achievement. Yeah, so what was achieved by the king. So in terms of military, in terms of territory, in terms of trade, and how he treated the other religious people. Okay, so these were also shown. So these were also understand from the coins. So see in this picture, so it was goddess of Lakshmi. Yeah. So do you know who published this coin, who issued this coin? A Muslim ruler. So his name was Muhammad of Gori. Yeah, so he was the first Muslim ruler in India. So he was the first Muslim ruler in India. So before that, before he there are lot of Muslim invaders. So but he was the person, so he established the first Islam government in India. So he stamped the figure of goddess Lakshmi on his gold coins and his name inscribed on it. So he stamped the figure of goddess Lakshmi on his coins and his name inscribed in it. Yeah. So this coin tells us that the early Turkish invader was in all likelihood liberal in religious outlook. So this coin shows that the initial Turkey invader were secularist people. So that is, they treated all religious equally. Yeah. Then apart from that, so the copper jetals, so the sign pictures, so the copper coins are available for the study of the period of Delhi Sultans. So the copper jetals shows the period of Delhi Sultans. Then the silver tanka introduced by Iltutmish, Alauddin Khilji's gold coins, Muhammad bin Tughlaq copper token currency are indicative of coinage as well as the economic prosperity or otherwise the country of the time. Yeah. So apart from that, Iltutmish issued silver tanga. Then Alauddin Khilji issues gold coins. Then Muhammad bin Tughlaq issued copper token currency. Yeah. So this shows the name of the rulers, so and also the economic wealth of the country. Yeah. So during the period of those rulers, so how our economic situation was existed. So from their coins we can understand the economic prosperity of our country also. Okay students, so the primary sources of medieval India over. Okay, so what are all included in the primary sources? Can you tell? Yeah, inscriptions, monuments and coins. Okay, so we saw about detailing. Yeah, so let me ask some questions. So first, so where do the Khajuraho monument located? So where do the Khajuraho monument situated? In which state? Yeah, Madhya Pradesh. So what about the Vittala and Virupaksha temple? So in which city, in which place it was located? Vittala and Virupaksha temple. Yeah, at Hampi. So it speaks about, so the Vittala and Virupaksha temple, so speaks about, so which rulers? Yeah, Vijayanagar ruler. Okay, Vijayanagar ruler. Yeah. So name some fort, so which gave importance, so to the medieval century India. So which gave detailed important information about the medieval century India. Yeah, Agra fort, Delhi fort, Gwalior fort, etc. Okay, very good. Then, so name the palaces, so that signify the greatness of the Rajput dynasty. Yeah, Jaipur, Jodhpur, Jaisalmer, etc. So Jaipur, Jodhpur, so it is very important. So that is necessary. Yeah. So then coins. Yeah. So what are all mentioned in the coin? Yeah, king name, his title, then dynasty, then that only. Yeah, his military conquest, his territorial expansion. Yeah, so etc. are also mentioned in the king's coin. Okay. Then so name the ruler. So who stamped the figure of law goddess Lakshmi. Okay. So name the ruler who stamped the figure of goddess Lakshmi. Yeah, very good. So Muhammad of Gori. Yeah. Then apart from that, so who introduced? So who issued silver tanga? Yeah, Iltutmish. Yeah. So now just understand. So now we are, hereafter you are going to learn a lot of new name. So a lot of Islam name. Okay. So listen carefully while pronouncing the word. Yes, it was Iltutmish. Yeah. Then so who issued copper token currency? Yeah, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Okay, so very good students. Yeah. So today's class we saw about the primary sources. In tomorrow's class we saw about the secondary sources. So finish your homework. So thank you. So take care.